So how exactly are farmers using this infinite banking concept to make their life better, to have more control over the money that's flowing through your hands? Well, we're going to learn a little bit about that today. Of course, we're joined by one of those farmers. We've got Rene Nielsen here. Now, Rene loves farming. He loves the land. He's got his wife and his 3 children. And interestingly enough, he was born in Denmark. So he's now calling Southern Alberta home, and he's been in Canada for a number of years. We'll discuss that a little bit. But he loves farming, and he loves what he's now able to do by incorporating the powerful infinite banking concept created by R. Nelson Nash and embracing that into his farming operation. Now, I'm joined also with my good friend, Roman Pushkar, who's joining us again on the podcast, made a number of appearances. Roman has the pleasure of being able to serve and assist Rene in all this activity. So we're going to have a fun discussion. Rene, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about this. You know, before we hit the record button, we had a nice little bit of a chance to connect and talk about some of the things you've been up to. Here's where I always like to begin as we are, doing this as part of our, our client series. Rene, at some point in time, you had a reason to look for something financially. And I don't know what happened. I'm guessing somewhere along the line, this book, Becoming Your Own Banker, showed up in your life. Help us understand a little bit. Walk us through what was the gateway that helped you see that this was even a possibility? What entered you into learning about the concept originally?
Well, I don't even remember the year that it happened, but I remember listening to a podcast, and it was actually to do with Mary Jo, right? I don't know, I listened to it, and it's, anyway, it's like everybody else's story, right? You kind of forget about it, put it on the back burner, and then a couple of years later, I listened to another thing where Jason was interviewed, and it kind of spiked my interest again. And I watched the video with Nelson Nash, which doesn't really have much to do with like the whole infinite banking, but more so to show how much of a character he was. Like he was I wish I could have met the guy, right? And I watched that, and I tried to show it to my wife. She didn't have much interest in it, and I remember that was in the spring of 21, I believe, and I reached out in the fall of 2022 and got in touch with Roman, and it ever since then it's worked out good for me.
What I'm hearing is it was not unlike a seed planted in the spring. It took a while for that seed to germinate. You heard about it on a podcast. A couple of years later, it came up again. Beyond that, you ended up watching the documentary film, learning about Nelson. And I appreciate you mentioned he's a character. He certainly was. I miss him to this day. And then sooner or later, you said, you know what, it's time to reach out and explore this further. And that's kind of how you connected with Roman. Did I capture that correctly?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Like everybody else would have said, like, it does seem too good to be true, right? And I had I was very skeptical, and I don't know if it all came across rude to Roman, but if it sounds too good to be true, it must be, right? So you're always drilling them with questions, and I'm sure Roman gets it till even the day to day, right? I'm sure everybody's trying to get it out of you, but I mean, it works. So I don't know. Our family has definitely benefited from it a bunch. So yeah.
Well, exciting to hear that. Now, Roman, of course, you were blessed beyond good fortune to have the first chance to connect with Rene and his family.
Yeah.
He mentioned a lot of questions. You actually enjoy questions. In fact,
I do.
We saw each other last week down in Florida, and of course, you had some questions for me, and I think we had a lot of fun with that also. So walk us through the experience from your perspective, Roman, getting a chance to connect with Rene initially, some of the questions that he had, and what was interesting about his farming experience from your vantage point.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pleasure working with Rene. Rene is a great guy. He is very coachable, and he is listening to everything I say. Just because he had already trust in what it is, and he has trust in Nelson and Nelson's message. And because I find it is very important for the client to read Nelson Nash's book before they come to talk to a coach. This is super important. And I find if someone has read this book that Richard is holding up, that it basically removes a ton of questions and gives a basic understanding that we can build on. And that's been very, joyful journey to serve Rene and his family. And Rene is always looking for ways to expand his system now. Not only he opened one policy or two or three, he actually has multiple policies right now, and he's been using them. In terms of questions, Rene has been asking questions. I don't think they were too hard to answer, but I, as a coach, used to give detailed answers at the beginning, but then I realized, the simpler you keep it, then the easier it actually it is to understand. So I actually tend to keep it very simple now, and then maybe give it analogies from Nielsen Ash's book, just to better understanding, and just getting hands-on the system, using it, and then when you use it, you actually see the fruits. You actually see how it plays out, and you want to do more, because if you control 20% of your income, why not control 25%? Why not control 35%? Right? And just expand your system. And when I shared my story with Rene, with his family, how I am using it in my family, how I'm expanding my system, that what connects with people, and with Rene's family too.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's so good. Now, Rene, you one thing that we didn't ask or mention is, what type of farming is it that you focus your energy on? Because you came over to Canada originally. You'd indicated as an exchange student to work for a farmer in Alberta, and that's kind of how you found yourself here. And I guess you loved Alberta enough, you decided not to ever leave. So, what is the type of farming that you focus your efforts on presently?
Well, it's kind of two different ends of the spectrum. We got our own little family outfit here, where my wife and I grow fresh cut flowers throughout from the spring till fall kind of thing. Lots of bouquets and weddings and potting out plants and bedding out plants and whatever you want. Like, it's very seasonal, right? It's from spring till fall, and so it's very cyclical, right? It's a lot of money for seed up front, and then all of a sudden all the cash comes in 3 weeks, and then there's nothing again, and then but it's not much different than my day to day. Like, my day to day is with a bigger farming outfit where we farm thousands of acres, where I'm fortunate enough to work with a great bunch of guys that after a few years I've been able to farm our own stuff there too, which it's the same thing, right? It's thousands of dollars on day. One day you got to seed, fertilize, spray, all the expenses are up front, and then you got to hurry up and wait, and it might be a year before you see a paycheck, right? So in that aspect, the system works great, because we're paying interest to our own system, but it doesn't disappear for 8 or 12 months out into thin air, and gone. We will never see it again. We'll pay it back to our own system and do it all over again next year, right? So it doesn't matter if it's $1,000 or it's $100,000. You throw it back every time and you do it again, right?
So the cycle of that seasonal business operation, which affects so many farmers, and sometimes farmers go through different aspects of seasons. They might have some cow-calf pairs or whatever. They might have different types of livestock, but they might also have land that they're farming for grains or canola or what have you. So there's different aspects of those seasons that take place for most farming operations. You definitely experience that, and one of the challenges that is common for a lot of farmings and farming families is the cyclical nature of the income. There's a lot of money that goes out, and then we're hoping that we have good weather, and we don't have a snow that shows up and crushes all your flowers that are budding in May or what have you. And you're in a position where you have this big harvest in fall that allows you to have a lump sum of capital that shows up, and you have to figure out how to make that last for a long period of time. That is a typical kind of struggle for a lot of farm families. And it sounds like, working hand in hand with Roman as a coach, you've been able to figure out through his guidance and working together and strategizing, how you can start to take a good chunk of that capital and start to flow it through your system, be able to use that now as policy loans and stuff to deal with day-to-day and big expenses, and then be able to flow back in basically when you have that lump sum.